Have you ever felt like the farther you stay away from somebody, the closer you get to them? Yeah, I've been there, and I think a lot of us have been there. I'll paint a few scenarios. I remember a relationship I was in a few years ago. While I was in the relationship, we fought a lot, like crazy. We were like, not like fist bump, but like we were arguing a lot. And these arguments would get so intense that we'll break up a few times and we'll get back together again, and then we'll break up a few times and we'll get back together. Like they were so intense. And prior to this, I already had this principle that whenever things go intense, it's important to take a break and, figure things out, see things from a clearer perspective. But unfortunately, my partner then did not believe in that. In fact, every time I said I wanted to take a break, she was like, "You're no longer in love with me. If you're no longer interested in me, just say it. Why are you trying to take a break from me? Am I stressing you? Am I suffocating you?" I mean, I can't tell her she's suffocating me. That's a terrible thing to say to your partner. I was just trying to say that I needed break, like I needed space, because that's just how I work. And I've learned this like over time, but I couldn't apply it in that relationship. Fast forward a few years after the relationship, because obviously we eventually broke up for real. I look back at some of the things we fought about in retrospect, and I'm like, these things are so basic. Like, I still see her as somebody that I could actually like potentially spend a lifetime with, spend my life with, because we actually had something going on. And when I look back, I feel like if we knew better, we could have handled the situation better and we would have still been together, and who knows, we might be having kids now and all that. But it happened the way it happened, and that's how we are now. Another scenario is like divorces. When before they get married, they are like besties, and then they get married and all hell break loose, and then they start fighting, and then eventually they decide to divorce each other, or one person decides to divorce the other person, and then they sign the divorce papers, and then they are now like, staying in touch, maybe because of the kids, or maybe because, some reason, or they are not even staying in touch at all. They're just away from each other, and they begin to miss each other. And then before you know it, some of them make the mistake of getting back together without addressing what made them, what broke their relationship in the first place. We could also see this scenario in a family. I've seen a family where two brothers were living together and they were fighting a lot. And then the moment one brother moved away, like he was traveling, it just felt like everything returned to normal. They just started vibing all of a sudden. They started liking each other again. They became like best friends. Whatever happened during the time they were together, that intensity of being together, who knows? We could also see this in friendship. A couple of friends will stay friends for like 10 years, 20 years, a couple of years, and they are good. But the moment one person became, they probably became homeless and decided to move in with the other person, everything just changed. They started seeing the bad part to this friend, and the friendship started struggling. They started fighting. I could keep going on and on and on about various situations that distancing has saved certain relationships. You might not count the divorce one as saving, but it's still saving, because at the end of the day, both of the couples, both of them are in a place that they feel, comfortable, they feel safe. I mean, they could have saved the relationship if they, found their ways, but not every relationship can be saved. So at the end of the day, they saved themselves. So distancing has saved, different relationships. If you look at the relationship between me and my ex-girlfriend, right now we are, cordial. We don't talk anymore because, she moved on, and like she's married now, so I need to give her that space. But we are cordial. We can talk now and vibe, and it won't be a problem because that distance. But at the time when we're fighting, we're literally trying to stay away from each other. You see this in the divorces. They're literally like vibing together again. The family people are vibing. It's like everybody, it has saved that relationship. It might not have saved it in the way that you would expect it to save it, but it does. So if you So when you look at all the scenarios, you see how distancing has saved various relationships. And that's what I want to talk about. How you can use distancing to save your relationship. How you can apply distancing to your relationships and find, and not let it get to the level where you have to, let go of that relationship for peace to reign. Then there's two types of distancing. There's physical distancing, there's emotional distancing. A lot of times people, do not physically distance themselves when they need to, and then they end up having to emotionally distance themselves. Physical distancing is just, physical, the way it is, staying away from somebody physically, just so you can clear your head. Emotional distancing is literally cutting the person off. Sometimes it can be for life, most times it's for life, because there's no way you cut somebody off emotionally and, come back to it. Emotion is not something you turn on and off. It's something that once you get on the journey of turning it off, it goes off for life. So, except it doesn't actually go off at all. So, physical distancing is the one I'm talking about that you can use to fix your relationships. Emotional, so that you don't get to the level where you now have to distance yourself emotionally from somebody. Let's take, for example, the relationship situation. If you are going through, certain hard times in your relationship, a lot of times these problems are not as heavy as they look when we are inside them. Let me reiterate. You are in the relationship with somebody. You guys are arguing a lot. A lot of times the things you are arguing about are not actually that big. But because you are in that circle arguing about it, it feels like a whole lot. It's like, yeah, we cannot be with each other. But truthfully, if you could just step back from that situation and look at that situation again, most of the times, the issues you're fighting about are actually very small things. But what happens is, issues tend to be 10 times bigger when you are inside them. So it's important to always take a step back from the situation and look at it like an outsider. You cannot be a complete outsider, but you can always try to, imagine that perspective. By distancing yourself, you have already started the journey of being an outsider. Now you look at it when your head is clear. You'll be able to see certain things that you wouldn't have seen if you, did not give that space. So distancing helps you in relationships, in certain quarrels. It helps you clear your head. You're able to see clearly what is happening. Now, this distancing can be in various ways. It can be one, the basic distancing, which a lot of people apply just because it's a personality thing. They don't have to quarrel to apply that. That's if you are with a partner, you just try to every once in a while, stay away, go somewhere where it's just you. You don't have to be with your partner all the time. I mean, this is not something I would say to everybody, but whatever works for you. Most people do this because they like their personal space a lot, and even though they are married to somebody, they feel it's important for them to always have that personal space. That is totally fine. And if you are the partner who is being told that somebody needs their personal space, a lot of times they really just need their personal space. But it's all dependent on the conversation, the communication that you have with this person. Because sometimes people say they need their personal space, and honestly, they're just trying to run away from you. And either ways, it's actually good for you, because you don't want somebody who is trying to run away from you. You don't want to force somebody who's trying to run away from you to stay with you. So when somebody tells you they need personal space, it's just best to let them. Whether they are trying to run away from you or they're trying to clear their head, either ways, it's best to let them. Maybe when they are back, it's important to address what's making them feel like, they need space. A lot of times, if there is no problem at all, the person is just taking space because that's how they are. That's how they have already programmed their mind to always take space every now and then that's fine. But if there's actually an issue, after they're done taking that space, this is the time you have that conversation. Because the mistake a lot of people make is, after taking the space, they come back and then life goes on. They don't address the issue that actually made them take the space and that made them take a step back in the first place. So it's important to have that conversation. If something makes you take a step back, when you're done taking a step back, come back and have that conversation. And whenever you're taking space, it's important to not put a timeline to it. Some of you say, hey, I need 2 days space. Let me think about think about it and let me clear my head. Once you put a timeline to it, you have automatically put pressure on yourself. And once you put pressure on yourself, you're limiting yourself. Whatever you could have achieved in those 2 days, you will not achieve them. It will feel like those 2 days will feel like 1 hour at the end of the day, because you have already put pressure on the 2 days and you're like, I need to deliver in 2 days. So that pressure is definitely not good. So definitely do not put a timeline to it when you're trying to take some space from somebody. And last but not least, when you are taking this space, first of all, try to, not pressure yourself into actually finding solutions. Just let yourself be for a minute. And then when you have let yourself, be for a while, then you analyze the situation, bring out this problem, analyze it, just look at it. You're not supposed to solve your problem. It's supposed to be between you and your partner. All you can do is analyze it. When you are done analyzing it, you go back to your partner and have that conversation. A lot of times it's best to analyze it with your partner, because when you're analyzing problems on your own, things will come in your head. You start thinking about it like on different levels. So it's important to do those analyses with your partner, and then, that way you can be able to build that bond, that communication, all that stuff. It helps a lot. Now, another level that you can take in the distancing is where maybe the problem is a lot. I mean, it always feels like a lot when you're in it, but you get what I mean? Like, it's actually something that maybe you might have been hurt in the process and you need time to heal. It's important to take as much time as you need to heal. Healing is not something you control. It's something that time, there's something they say, time heals. So you have to let time heal. If you start, trying to control it, you don't get any results. So when it gets to that level where it's just best to communicate with your partner and say, okay, this might take longer. I hope that's cool. And usually it's a rhetorical question. They just need to say yes. But you're making them feel like they have a say in, how this you're taking a break, happens. So, and then once you're done taking the break, you come back, have that conversation. Now, the conversation part is where is what changes the whole thing. Because no matter how many breaks you take, if you come back and you have that conversation and it actually does not yield any results, the break has helped you heal, but you're going to take that break again after a while. So that conversation phase is very important. It's actually very, it's very important. It's one of the most important phases in all of it. So it's very, it's a phase that you don't want to joke with. So when you are back and you start having the conversation, what is going to happen is, first of all, when you bring out the problem, you're going to look at the problem like, this problem, who is the person that needs to maybe bring down their guard or bring down their ego, their pride for this problem to stop existing? Is it me? Is it my partner? Is it both of us? Okay, let's say it is both of you. Are we both willing to bring down our pride and, eliminate this problem? Now, this might sound very easy, but it's not. Bringing down your pride can mean a lot of things. It can mean letting go of a lifestyle or routine that you've had for your whole life. That's a big deal. Or quitting a habit that you've had for your whole life. That's a pretty big deal too. Or changing a belief that you've always had your whole life. It could get to that level where there are certain things that are life-changing that you literally have to do. So when you hear bringing down your pride or compromising, it might sound very basic, but it can be very, very, heavy. So you need to look at it, both of you. Are these changes you're willing to do? If you're not willing to do it, it's okay. It just means that those changes are more important to you. Like, they are really important to you, and you'd rather keep them and, keep that, stay away from that person than make those changes and be with the person. That's totally fine. As much as we like to paint the narrative that people should sacrifice everything for love, in reality, we are not always willing to sacrifice everything for love. So it's okay if you're not willing to sacrifice everything. Sacrifice what you can sacrifice. You don't want to sacrifice everything and be sad. We all can attest, at least, to what we see in the movies. Even those that sacrifice everything for love, it did not guarantee happiness. Some of them were still very sad. Some of them were so hot. Some of them were, and then they will tell you love is sad, love is pain. Like, there's always that comeback for love. Whenever anything happens for love, there's always that comeback. So whatever you are able to do, it's okay. It's okay. If you're able to do this much, it's okay. If you're able to sacrifice this little, it's okay. If you're able to sacrifice so much, that's okay too. So you have to weigh it and look at your partner and be like, am I willing to do this for this person? Once you have weighed it and looked like, okay, I'd rather just, step away from the situation for life. These things that we make become a lot of issues, like these things that we make into like serious issues, a lot of times are not even that serious. So when you do it like this, you have literally analyzed the situation, you have broken it down, now you have seen what is the problem, and now you have decided that, yeah, I'd rather stay away. And that's totally fine. You have made that decision for yourself. So when you move on from it, you will not be haunting yourself that, oh shit, I wish I made, a different decision. Now, let's say you decide that, okay, cool. Let's stay together. Let's work on it. I am willing to, sacrifice whatever it takes. And then you do that. And then everybody is still happy. So this issue, the funny thing is, this result would not have been gotten if you had stayed in that relationship, in the fight, and try to make the decision. Stepping back is the thing that gave you that clarity. So it's important to wait and be like, okay, cool. I'm willing to, I'm not willing to. The truth is that a lot of times in relationships, every relationship can work. Every marriage can work. It's all about what you're willing to sacrifice. Sometimes people have to sacrifice their life. That's people who stay in abusive relationships for love. Cheers. That's NEPA. So, what was I saying? Every marriage, every relationship can be fixed, can be worked on. It's all about what you're willing to sacrifice for it to work. Sometimes people sacrifice their life. These are people who stay in abusive relationships, for example. They're like, yeah, I love you and I've decided to stay with you no matter what it takes. Even if it takes my life, I am willing to stay. That is the top level, and to me, a very stupid level, because why would you die because of somebody in that way? Like, people literally say, I will die for you, but we imagine it to be something, something more reasonable, like maybe you got attacked in the house, there were robbers in the house and they wanted to shoot, and then instead of your wife getting shot at, you blocked the bullet and got shot. Or the other way around, instead of your husband getting shot, you as a wife blocked the bullet and got shot, which is not a common situation, but yeah, let's just say that. That's more of an iconic death. If you die that way, we'll be like, yeah, she died, a hero. But dying in an abusive relationship is definitely not dying a hero. But that's not what we're talking about. Let's focus. So people sacrifice different things. So that's one of the sacrifices that certain people are willing to do, suffer and die. Another level of sacrifice some people do is like making life changes to their life, to their entire personality for the sake of love. Maybe there was somebody who they like so much and they are in love with the person, but maybe certain lifestyle choices that they have to make to be with this person. People have different levels of sacrifices. So every relationship can work. Every marriage can work. It's all about what you're willing to sacrifice. And sometimes the sacrificing for certain relationships is just not worth it when you look at the kind of person you are in the relationship with. It's important to look at what you're sacrificing for. Is it necessary to be in an abusive relationship? Of course not. Certain sacrifices are necessary. Certain sacrifices are unnecessary, but certain sacrifices are a matter of choice. If you do it, it's fine. If you don't, it's still fine. There's no manual to life or no manual to relationships or what is acceptable, in relationships. People are allowed to do whatever they want to do. So it is important to, weigh it and look at what you're willing to sacrifice for this person. If it is that big, if it's so big and it's something you can do and you want to do it, so be it. If it's so big and it's something you're not willing to do, whatever you're willing to do, do. If you're not willing to do it, don't do it. It's all up to you. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that distancing, it's, you distance yourself to you distance yourself and you notice that things are not working out with this person. And then you come back. It's important to address why the things were not working out when you were with this person physically, especially since it's a relationship, because you're going to be with this person physically for life. So once you address it, if it's something that you can do, if it's something that you can, if it's something that the person or you have agreed that, okay, yes, we are willing to make these changes and fix our marriage or fix our relationship, then you go ahead and fix it. But if it's something that you have looked and said, yeah, this is not worth it, let's just go our separate ways, then it's fine. You go your separate ways. The same thing when we talk about like families, friendships. But in this case, friends don't have to live together. Families don't have to live together. At some point, families separate and then they start a new family. It's how life works. So in a family situation, most times it's just best once you notice that the reason you guys are fighting a lot is because of, something that your incompatibility, physical incompatibility, something that they do that you don't like, or something that you do that they don't like, in the physical, then it's just best to give them that space. There's something Nigerians call see finish, and everybody tends to try to avoid it. See finish literally means familiarity over familiarity. So a lot of times people tend to avoid, over familiarizing with anything, with anybody, because once you do that, your value begins to drop. So over familiarity in this case is staying in the same house with somebody who, that you're not compatible with. At the end of the day, it's all going to end in, fights, some kind of arguments and fights. It's never going to end well. So it's important to just look at it for yourself. If you are willing to make those changes, make the changes and stay. If you're not willing to make the changes, don't make the changes and move on. Life goes on. So this is how distancing can, help certain relationships. Because one thing is, when you do not distance yourself in such situations, things get worse, and then you begin to see problems that did not even exist in the first place. This is how it happens. When you do not distance yourself, when you're fighting and arguing, you will start, it can be because the argument could be because of something as basic as not doing the dishes. That's very basic. But at the end of the argument, it ends in a divorce. How did we go from not doing the dishes to divorce? Because from not doing the dishes, the wife now started saying, or the husband, whoever was not doing dishes, was now like, whoever was the partner that was doing more dishes than the other person will now be like, you don't love me, because if you love me, you will make effort and help me out with this work. And then before you know it, they're talking about who is that person. It's like you like somebody else. Are you seeing somebody else? Before you know it, there's accusations of unfaithfulness. Before you know it, we're talking about you're not a good example for our kids. You start wondering when you are down the road, like when you are done with everything, you start wondering, how did you go from not doing dishes to divorce? Do you get? So a lot of times it's important to know when to distance yourself, because once you are able to distance yourself in the right time and work on your problems, you will save your relationship with that person. Yes, you might be walking away from that relationship. Let's say it was a relationship, but you will still be able to be friends with that person because you left at the right time. You made that, you distance yourself at the right time. But if you don't distance yourself at the right time, it's all going to end in hate. And before you know it, both of you hate each other and you don't want to be in each other's face again. So that's how you use distancing to build better relationships and, improve your bonds with people. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in another video. Peace.